Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Geoff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com. New podcast out this morning. It's brought to you by East Coast Roofing, Siding, Windows, serving all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up online at EastCoastRoofing.com. Sports Bash is live at the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games in Ocean Casino Resort all football season long, including today. I'll have another name coming up here that qualifies for a chance to go see the Eagles play in Washington against the Commanders. All you have to do is get the details at 97.3ESPN.com. I'll have the next name coming up right after Football at 4, so hang tight. If you entered, I may be able to call your name out, but I can only do it, PT, if you enter.
You got to enter and win. I mean, it's pretty simple as that.
All right, well, here we go. Sports Bash, Football at 4. Geoff Mosher's here as we take a look at this Eagles team, kind of mid-camp, right? We're kind of mid-training camp as they get ready for the opener on Friday. And let's start with that, Geoff Mosher. What's going on, Moshe? How are you?
Mike Gill and PT, this is amazing. This is a double delight.
Mondays.
How are you gentlemen doing?
Mondays, Moshe. The
Right.
PT's here on these Mondays.
Right,
now.
Mondays with Moshe. Mondays, let's do it.
Yeah.
I love it. Great to talk to you, Pete, and Mike, of course, as you as well as always.
All right, let's kind of
Attaboy.
dive into a little mid-camp progress report, if we will, and kind of get your Inside the Birds take on people you've talked to, some observations from your own two eyes on what you've seen from this team. And let's start with, it's not glamorous, but has Isaac Seumalo essentially gone unopposed at right guard?
Yes. I think that's fair to say. I think the biggest question of the offseason, as we understood it, was, could Isaac Seumalo stay healthy? Could he play right guard, which he has not played? But also, could they afford him with some of the additions that they've made going back to Hassan Reddick and, even as late as James Bradbury, who's making a pretty decent amount of money for a guy who was a free agent that long. And I'm sure in their thinking, they had guys who could play right guard if they needed to save the money from Isaac Seumalo, who has a team-friendly contract. It's his last year, but it's only team-friendly if he's playing. If he's a backup, it's not team-friendly. And if he's hurt, it's not team-friendly, of course. But they started him early in OTAs, moved him to right guard, and everything we've been told is that he has just looked as good as they expected him to look there. I mean, he is a guy that when he plays left guard, he's not a Pro Bowl player, but he's darn consistent, and he's pretty good, and he has games where he's excellent, far more than he has games when he's not good. And we've been told that he lost a little bit of weight, too, so maybe that'll help him avoid some of the injuries he's had in the past. But he's a natural guard. He's always been a guard. He's projected to be able to play center because he's a good athlete. But the only competition would have been Jack Driscoll, who himself has struggled to stay healthy. And Jack is he can play guard, and he has played guard for the Eagles, and Jeff Stelton likes him, but he's probably better as a tackle. Unfortunately for him, Lane Johnson is one of the best tackles out there. So it looks like Driscoll has been practicing mostly at right tackle, and he's a backup tackle who can play guard for now. And Isaac Seumalo, as we speak, is the right guard for this team.
Jeff, obviously the big and by the way, on that Driscoll front, Lane Johnson of 49 games over the last 3 seasons, I think he's only played in about 32 of them. So his injury history the last 3 seasons makes Driscoll a commodity to have to keep behind him. But mid-season or mid-camp, I want to take a look at the fit for A.J. Brown. How does he fit into this offense? He's only one player. It's like adding one bat to a lineup, how it deepens and lengthens a lineup. How does adding one wide receiver to your wide receiving core change things for this offense?
Yeah, I think you made a great analogy, and you could even take it a step further because there's only so many receivers. It's almost like adding an extra pitcher, right, to your rotation where when you get Syndergaard, it bumps Gibson and Suarez down, and now you're looking even better. And that's how it works with A.J. Brown. He comes in, he's the number one receiver. Smith is your 2, your 1A, whatever it is. And Dallas Goedert is a tight end, not a receiver, but he's a big-time target monster. And that gives Jalen Hurts his 3 best options in the passing game. What A.J. Brown will do for the passing game, ideally, and obviously we'll have to see it, you've seen it in training camp so far, is he gives them a very physical presence on the perimeter. I know at the link last night he made a great catch where he was covered by James Bradbury, and they just didn't have a guy who could make that. Even Devontae Smith, I don't think, made a catch like that last year. So he gives them that physical presence that they miss, and they haven't had in quite a while on the outside. But then also he is a guy who can help your intermediate game. He can catch passes across the middle and then turn them into bigger games because he excels in yards after the catch. He has that kind of shiftiness that allows him to catch the ball, tuck it, head upfield, break a few tackles because he's strong, and give you that extra yardage. And if you remember last year, one of Jalen Hurts' sort of bugaboos was throwing the ball in certain areas of the middle of the field. If it wasn't Dallas Goedert, it wasn't going to be anybody, and there were times where he would force it. I think Brown obviously gives him an opportunity to make more connections across the middle of the field and improve an area that was a weakness last year. I don't know if you guys heard Nick Sirianni's press conference yesterday, but he was talking about receivers that he's coached in the past, back with the Chargers, Terrell Williams. He mentioned another guy, Travis Benjamin, who were guys who can kind of take that deep post, that deep dig, and really stretch a defense. So when I believe he mentioned there's an area of our offense that I want to see improve. And he said, I'm not going to say what it is, but in the context of the conversation, it sounded like he wants to see better improvement attacking the second and the third levels of a defense, and Brown should give him the opportunity to do that. And, of course, Devontae Smith when he's healthy, too.
Right, when he's healthy. Geoff Mosher with us sort of assessing where the Eagles are right now. And, Jeff, we spoke with John McMullen earlier in the program, and he talked about the running back position. And it's not like he assigned a grade to it, but he didn't necessarily have glowing things to say about the running back. So I'm curious to find out your assessment of where the running backs are, you think, right now.
Well, I feel like training camp, and you guys probably have covered enough and known about enough. It's almost about, like, what's the unknown? That's where you were at your progress reports. How's Jalen Hurts coming with A.J. Brown, who's new to the team? How's Hassan Reddick look? But some of the steady Eddie stuff kind of gets thrown under the table, and it just doesn't get as much attention. But to me, in our podcast today, which was an hour and a half long, we went through every single position group, every player, and me and Adam, we hit up as many sources as possible who have either been there or seen the tape. And nobody has told us anything negative about the running backs. But you also know what you've got. You know what you've got in Miles Sanders. You know what you have in Boston Scott. You assume Kenneth Gainwell, coming off last year, can improve in some areas and become even better. So there's not a whole lot of guesswork involved. Those are your three running backs. It wouldn't surprise me if they only took three on the 53-man and then did two stashes on the practice squad, someone like a Huntley, perhaps, and then maybe they get a bigger back who gets released or someone who's a free agent now just to have a bigger back like they had last year with Jordan Howard, and you have that guy, collect dust on the practice squad until you actually need him. So I don't know if there was that much to prove other than Miles Sanders needs to stay healthy. He needs to catch the ball well. But he certainly, the one thing that has stood out from our sourcing is that Miles Sanders came to camp bigger, stronger in the lower leg area, the calf muscles, the thigh muscles. Miles has talked about it, wanting to make sure he stays healthy this year and avoid those lower leg injuries. And when I've seen him, he's looked explosive to me, even with the added strength and muscle. So I just don't think that there's much to say because we've seen these guys and we kind of know what they are and aren't.
Geoff Mosher with us here on the Sports Pass. Jeff, I think, too, that you're talking about the running game, but yet with the A.J. Brown addition, with what Devontae Smith did last year, everybody's eyes obviously are on the quarterback because they're always on the quarterback, but maybe more so this year. But are you able to ascertain what kind of offense you think Sirianni wants to run? Are we going to see a lot of this RPO? Or are we going to see a vertical game, more of a, fans in Philadelphia always tend to, because we're dinosaurs, sometimes will say, run the ball. But, are you able to ascertain what style of offense it'll be?
It's hard to say until you actually see it, because I think the coaches even need to be convinced that certain things can happen that didn't happen last year. But philosophically, that they want to throw the ball more, especially earlier in the game, than they did last year. Now, I don't think that if you shot them up with two serum, they're expecting to be Kansas City or the Tampa Bay Bucks overnight. They're not out on the ball 45 times a game. The run is a big part of what they do because they have a great offensive line and they have a quarterback who can keep defenses guessing with his ability to run. So do I still think there are going to be a good amount of RPOs built into this offense? Yes, I do. Do I still think they're going to pick and choose their moments to spring some quarterback design runs, read option? Yes, I do. But I don't think that they're going to be such a heavy, at least intentionally, they don't want to be as run heavy as they were last year, because you saw that only worked so much. When you have to play a good team with a good defense, you're going to have to throw the ball on them. And plus, they were very rarely behind in games last year because of except for the games that they were getting blown out in. I think that they know that there's going to be some games where they're going to have to win some in the fourth quarter, maybe a fourth quarter comeback. They're going to have to throw the ball better and more efficiently this year.
Geoff Mosher, little mid-camp report card on this Eagles team as they get ready for Friday night. And, one of the areas I want to get a report card on you from is that, I don't know, is it a battle for that third wide receiver spot? I mean, if you were to give a report card on Zach Pascal, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, who's got the highest GPA of that group?
I mean, sometimes you just have to listen to what the coaches say. You heard Nick Sirianni in the press conference all of a sudden talk about Britton Covey, and he didn't just say he's doing a good job. He said the NFL is soon going to see why he was such a productive player at Utah. So when I hear a coach say the NFL is going to see this, I think that's not just coach speak. I think that's him basically saying we really like this guy, and the secret's not going to be in the bag for much longer. And Britton Covey, his build, that smallish frame, but the quick feet, the Wes Welkers of the world, the quick slot receivers of the world. I mean, he's kind of tailor-made to play the slot, but he obviously has to be the punt returner. He has to show in these 3 preseason games that he belongs on an NFL 53, but it feels like he's trending that way. They signed Zach Pascal. Coach knows him. He's been out for a while with the food poisoning. He really hasn't practiced much, but I don't believe that his spot on the 53 is in jeopardy. So those are 4 receivers right there between A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins. You heard Nick Sirianni talk about him again yesterday, and he said that there are times that we try to draw plays to get him the ball because we know what he can do, and we want to make sure that he's fed. So, you hear all these names, and you don't hear much about Jalen Reagor unless you directly asked about Jalen Reagor. So I think that pretty much shows the writing on the wall with what the wide receiver pecking order is looking like right now. Now, there's still time left in camp. Again, Covey's got to prove himself. But it sure looks like if you're reading through the tea leaves and you're watching practice and you're talking to people like Adam and I do, that the top 4 at very least are Smith and Brown and Watkins and Pascal, with Covey in the mix to be the number 5.
Yeah, that should be something to keep an eye on. And I guess, before we talk about some other guys, that battle should play out starting Friday night, right? That group of guys you would imagine will play.
Yes. I mean, I don't know that you'll see much. Devontae's been out with a groin, so you're probably not going to see him. You're not going to see A.J. Brown. But, yeah, you're certainly going to – and actually, the Pascal thing will be interesting because of the way they've dealt with injuries and ramping up, because he really just got back to practice in a limited way, I think. So, I mean, he was out for quite a while. I don't know if he'll be considered ready to play in that preseason opener, which, of course, means a lot of snaps for guys like Covey and Deion Kane and Jalen Reagor will definitely get in there as well. And Carrick Wheatfall. I know everybody's excited about him. There'll be a lot of snaps for them. Oh, and of course, John Hightower, who's, he's like the veteran who never plays now. I mean, he's always on the team. He's just never on the field.
Yeah, it's your Greg Ward, right? You got him.
Well, he was out with a toe. He's out with a toe injury, I think. So I'm not sure if he'll be. It all depends on whether he can practice in the next 2 days.
Right, exactly. And I was talking about this morning. Somebody has to play on Friday night. As much as they want to put the kid gloves on, some guys have to play, and you wonder which of those guys do these preseason games, because the preseason, let's be honest, Geoff, has changed as we know it. The preseason is no longer used for, hey, you player X and player Y are battling for a position. Let's see who plays better in these preseason. That's kind of out the window. So are these preseason games important for certain guys?
Only a few. I mean, a guy like Britton Covey, again, who the coaches like, but if he goes out there, drops punts, drops passes, can't get off certain, presses at scrimmage, or can't find his way open to certain defenses, now that you're playing a different team, that's research for the coaches. That's a better understanding of what to expect as opposed to what they've seen in practice all the time against the same personnel. So a guy like Covey, yeah, I think that matters. There will be veterans, Hassan Reddick, who's probably not going to play. I'm trying to think of a guy. There are guys who are going to play, but the coaches already kind of know what to expect.
Geoff, there's 3 phases of the football game, right? Offense, defense, and what's the third one?
Offense, defense, and more offense, Pete?
Yeah, you don't want to see the punter out there, and I'm not asking about the punter, as Mike Gill gives me a dirty look. I want to know about the special teams and if you've seen anything in there.
Well, you know what? I think so you always find good special teamers usually on defense from your linebackers, your corners, safeties, and a guy who's been a good special teamer for them, a really good special teamer for them, is Sean Bradley. However, when you look at the way the linebacker battle is shaping up, in some form or fashion, there's going to be 4 guys making it. That would be T.J. Edwards, who's had a great camp. Not a good camp, a great camp. Probably one of his best camps among anybody, including, his past camp. So there's Edwards, Kaiser White. They drafted Nakobe Dean. And Davion Taylor's year 3. Those are 4 guys. Does Sean Bradley make it as a fifth guy to play special teams? Because there are other guys on defense that they're also looking at, like Patrick Johnson, Kyron Johnson, who I think is going to make it based on his kind of upside alone, and he's kind of a backup pass-rushing Sam to Hassan Reddick. So that's an area where you say Sean Bradley might not be able to make this 53 anymore, and if he doesn't, well, that's a guy that's really helped them in special teams who they're going to have to replace.
You have 5
Pearson was a really good special teamer. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you have 5 linebackers that you think are going to – and I loved how you described Nakobe Dean, by the way. I mean, obviously, he was their draft pick, so I don't know that everybody's so high on Nakobe Dean at this point of what they've seen so far, but you got to give the guy a year to figure it out, don't you?
Well, yes, but also I think it's a testament to – and I'm not trying to sound so glowingly about the Eagles. Like, I think they're winning 14 games. I mean, their linebackers are still Eagles linebackers compared to some other teams that prioritize it more. But T.J. Edwards has made it very hard to get him off the field. So it sounds like if this trajectory stays the same, he's going to be one of your 2 stacked backers. When you play nickel, you usually have 2 linebackers that are stacked. He's going to be one, and you got to think Kaiser White. They signed him for a reason. If not Kaiser White, then you've got Davion Taylor and Nakobe Dean there all competing. And I'm not saying Nakobe Dean 3 weeks from now might not be able to leapfrog them, but I think the thought process was it would be T.J. Edwards, who used to be the downhill linebacker, who was going to come off the field for Nakobe Dean. But Edwards is making it really tough. He's really improved his coverage, and he's a smart football player. So the thing about T.J. is if he ran a 40 or if you tested him combine style now, I'm not sure that the results are going to be that much different from when he came out of Wisconsin. But he has worked so hard to understand the defense, where he's supposed to be, that his play speed is faster than his time speed. And his play athleticism is better than his testing athleticism, which sounds like an oxymoron, but we've seen that many times. We've seen guys who can run like the wind, but they can't catch the ball, or they're not good receivers. They can't run routes. But he's the inverse. He doesn't test athletically very well, but he does all the things a linebacker needs to do and is in the spots where he needs to be, that he's become a pretty good linebacker for them.
Geoff, give me a couple guys that either you're hearing or saw for yourself that stand out or have stood out, and a couple of guys at this stage of the, we're halfway through, that need to have some areas to improve.
Yeah, well, I can definitely give you 2 at one position to start off, and that's quarterback. When we look at backups, Reed Sinnett, we've been told, has been great this preseason, this training camp. The coaches love him. He's great in the classroom, has an understanding of what this offense is supposed to be now. It's his second year with the team. Has taken command. You've seen him. He got second-team reps the other day. I think he's going to get a lot of preseason snaps, obviously, with Jalen Hurts not likely to play much, and maybe Gardner Minshew a quarter. But he has had a really good camp, and he's, trying to push to make it 53 as a third quarterback. They may not keep 3 unless he convinces them to, but he's done really well. And on the flip side, Carson Strong, he's got a ways to go. Everybody knows he has a great arm. And the knee surgical, it's not about the knee. It's not about the movement right now. It's just about learning the playbook, and things are clearly swimming for him as we understand it. And he just has not been able to look like a really good quarterback out there because of that. So I thought that would be interesting because I know a lot of people were kind of high on Carson Strong, but Reedson has clearly been the best number 3 quarterback in camp for them. On the offensive line, I know that everybody saw like Cam Jurgens get abused last night in one-on-ones by Jordan Davis, but he's actually had a really good camp, and I've seen with my own eyes in one-on-ones he has had good reps against Jordan Davis. That just happens to be one of those things where you see one bad rep and it goes viral and you think the guy is like really struggling. It's not the case. Really good. He's especially picked up the mental side of things, so that's encouraging. I told Suo Opeta, who's fighting to make the team as maybe an 8th or 9th offensive lineman, has really improved. Very strong player who just needed to kind of, get as many reps as possible to understand his assignments. Well, now it's year 3 for him, and he's doing a better job of that. And concerns, Mike, are safety. Jaquiski Tart, I know a lot of people were hoping he'd come in here and challenge Anthony Harris based on his pedigree. It hasn't happened yet. As we understand it, he's still learning this defense. It's not the same defense he played in San Francisco, and he's not ready to go out there and take any starting jobs. I mean, he's still competing to make the team. So it's been a little bit slow going for him. But on the flip side, Josiah Scott, who has been a nickel corner for them, who can play outside. You've seen him line up a little bit at safety. He's starting to show that he has very good versatility. And they want to do a lot of stuff on the back end as far as mirror matching or pattern matching, which is sort of like you're in zone, but you're kind of playing man underneath. And you need to switch off, and you need to have good coverage guys. Josiah Scott has established himself right now as the 4th best corner on the team if camp ended today. I mean, you have your Slay, you have Bradbury, you have Avonte Maddox, who I'm told is having the best camp that he's ever had and looks great. Zach McPherson, of course, makes it because he's a 4th-round pick in his second year. But that 5th corner right now, with all those guys, the McGowans, the Mac McCains, the other guys, it would be Josiah Scott who gets that spot.
All right, little breakdown there. Eagles-Jets Friday night. Listen to the game live on 97.3 ESPN. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick have the call at 7:30 as they open the preseason game number 1. We'll have it all up to the preseason opener on Football at 4 tomorrow. Adam's back. Jeff will be here on Wednesday, and we'll have plenty of notes getting you ready for that first preseason game. Check out Inside the Birds podcast for more details. An hour-and-a-half detailed look at mid-camp progress, I should say, on all of the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, Moshe, appreciate it, bud.
Have a good one, fellas.
All right, that's Geoff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com.